Hello, Driving Intelligence community. We got a new vehicle to work on today. I've never worked on this brand before, a Mercedes. It's a 2012 C250 with the 1.8 liter turbocharged engine. And the owner has a coolant leak, and I got to figure out where that coolant leak is coming from. Now, this engine is not purging a lot of fluid. It's actually a very slow leak. The owner finds a puddle underneath the car in the morning after driving it the day before. I'm going to post another video below on a 1999 Cadillac DeVille where I had to do a similar thing where I just let the engine get really hot and just start to see where the leak comes from. So opening up the hood, the first thing I want to look for are obvious leaks. And you can see here, we definitely have an obvious leak around this cap. Cap's already been replaced, so it's probably a gasket issue. But as I look underneath the engine cover, which easily pulls up, you can see a lot of fluid has dried up. That the radiator fluid has dried on top of that shield that's over the turbocharger. And it turns out, feeling around, it's this pipe that is leaking. Very slow drip, enough to drop the fluid level down but not cause catastrophic problems. No, I'm not doing a pull off a piece pipe while I'm doing this repair. This is actually the coolant tube that I took off that vehicle. And I want to take a moment just to show you how easy it is to find these parts online. Now, before I removed the part, I was able to look at the part numbers on here and do an internet search. And fortunately enough for me and for you, this showed up on Amazon at a very reasonable price with quick delivery, much cheaper than you'd find from the Mercedes dealership, especially if you're including labor in that. I'm going to link this part below. So if you get it from my link, I get a small cut to support my channel. And while you're down there, please hit that thumbs up, please comment. But it's relatively easy to get off. It's straightforward. I'm going to show you that. A couple mounting points here. It is a two-piece pipe that you have to buy as an assembly. The hardest one to get off is a continuous band clamp. I'll show you that in a moment. I had to cut that off with a Dremel, but you can actually replace it with a standard hose clamp. Now I'm going to give you a heads up on how to get to this coolant pipe. It's not easy to get out. You've got a clamp back there. You need a special tool. I'll link below. You got a couple screws that have to come off here. There's a attachment bracket underneath here in two places for this pipe, and the one on this side has to be removed after you move the power steering pump reservoir out of the way. Then you have to take off a clamp here. Now they put a continuous metal clamp here that I had to cut off. I'll show you that in the video. And then you had to take off this particular little clip and this clip here to get everything out of the way so you could remove that pipe. All right, so here's where I learned so you don't have to. Here's the new pipe, and you can see it has two hard mounting points, one here, one here. The one at the back is pretty easy to get to, but the one over here, you can see the slot where it goes into. There's only one bolt that needs to be removed. Now, I removed all the bolts for the power steering reservoir, etc. You don't need to do that. But getting back to the hardest part again, I'm going to have to actually cut this with a Dremel and use a standard radiator hose clamp to hold that back when I put it back together. In retrospect, the only thing I needed to do was get the power steering reservoir out of the way so I could get to this bolt that goes right here through to the bracket that holds the cooling pipe in place. So there's three bolts, one, two, and then another one behind that hold the power steering reservoir in place. You don't need to remove it, just pull it out of the way, and you're able to get to that bolt and pop the cooling pipe out of the way. That last clamp at the back of that pipe requires a special tool that compresses that type of clamp. Otherwise, you're not going to get to it, even with channel locks. Part's off, and I'm only seeing some residual radiator fluid here. There might be a crack also. Under pressure, it starts to push the fluid out. But it was a really small crack, so it wasn't catastrophic, but we got the new part, so we're gonna make everything good. Installation and reassembly is a reverse procedure. There's really nothing special to consider, except when you remove that pipe, you are gonna lose coolant on the ground. There'll be enough coolant missing that you'll need to top off the coolant reservoir and make sure it's filled prior to starting the engine, and keep an eye on that level while the engine is idling. Blip the throttle to get all the air bubbles out of the coolant system, and top off as needed, but don't open up that coolant reservoir until the engine cools off. And that's it. a much cheaper path to repair your expensive Mercedes or any other big name brand. Parts are easy to come by through Amazon, and I've linked everything you need to get this job done in the description section of this video. Until next time, thanks for watching Driving Intelligence.